Yeah.
The Brian James in the film Tango and Cash, he passed away in '99, but before he passed, he interviewed saying the film was in disarray from the very beginning, and by the halfway point of the shoot, when the film was several months behind schedule, Peters and the director were no longer speaking. James had agreed that the official reason was the director Andre, I just call him by first name, was fired because of his budget, but he also had to say that going over budget was not his fault. And however, he had nothing but praise for Stallone. Both he and James said that despite Stallone's ego and decision to fire the original cinematographer, and the fact that he had a hand in his firing, Stallone was the one person who held the project together and had a constant voice of reason when there was chaotic on the set. Let's see here. And there was also a legal battle between producers. Peter Guber and John Peters. It went into production in June. The directors were changed in late August. Just a lot of complications, and filming was finally finished on October 20th, 1989, and 8 weeks before its original scheduled release.
Wow, that's not a lot of time to cut it.
No.
To cut it together, that's insane.
This movie, man, of all the stuff this movie went through, is still held together. I'm sorry, just go ahead, John. What were you trying to say?
But it says right here, because we talked about scenes being cut. Warner Brothers wanted no such risk of the same problems with the MPAA as it had with its previous Stallone film Cobra. It ordered the editors to cut some death scenes in the last part of the film while it was being re-edited, which explains the usage of jump cuts every time someone is shot in the film.
That's true, they don't show a lot of that.
Yeah. Behind the scenes problems including filming script changes and later constant cuts were so big and so bad that one of the more experienced crew members said in an interview, "This was the worst organized, most poorly prepared film I've ever been on in my life. From the first day we started, no one knew what the hell anyone was doing." The same crew member also mentioned some reasons why the director was fired. He found himself in over his head. There were scenes scheduled for 3 days that were so complicated they should have been scheduled for 6 or 7 days. They were trying to do a 22-week movie in 11 weeks. Wow.
Stallone's infamous for that. Doing big budget stuff in no time at all,
And it missed its budget by over $20 million. It says right here, it had to be completely re-edited by editor Stuart Bayard prior to its theatrical release. Tango and Cash is one of the many films to be turned over to Bayard, who came onto projects as an editing doctor, and he was displeased with the first cut. And he also was called in to do re-edits on Demolition Man a few years later for the same reasons. Just a lot of complications with the production and just a lot of crazy stories.
Yeah, like you think about that, like just the time they had to cut it alone. That's like maybe one of the reasons Rambo 2 got a bad rap too, was because, like they went into filming with the date already looming. They had press out for Rambo 2 like a year before it was scheduled to come out. So it was really cut quick. So especially you look at that and you kind of think, okay, well, that's one big movie to have in a year, but he was also doing Rocky 4 the same year. So it was kind of like to film and cut both of those and kind of work out, how that goes together. And then you kind of look at like Tango and Cash, how it kind of has that same like editing, like the editing streak. It's not very long. And even if you look at I'm surprised Creed got cut as well as it did, considering they did that in like a month. Like a month they filmed that? Like less than a month?
Damn.
Yeah. Maybe a month and a half with different locations, but
think about it, that's if you finish a film by October and it has to be released in December, you're not getting a lot of time.
No.
And that's back in the day where it wasn't digital. That's back in the day where you take the tape and you cut it and you splice it like you're under a microscope. looking through a fish, cutting little pieces of film and taping them together and putting them on a reel. You know, that's insane.
So what are your thoughts, Wall, man, on the kind of the disarray behind the set?
You know, it's really fucked up. I'm glad it came out the way it did. I mean, Stallone with of course he has an ego problem, but like it said, he knows how to put stuff together, and you know, yeah, it's just hearing about this, you know, it's and watching after seeing this movie, how it's my favorite Buddy movie, and all this craziness it went through to make it. It was tough. It was a bummer, but it still came out good, and I hope today they settled that craziness, and I hope they patched things up with Stallone as well. But out of all that, it came out. Tango and Cash came out to be a very good film, and it was a crazy thing, but they pulled it off.
Yeah, I mean the finished product was great.
Yeah, I gotta give it to that editor too, because like I was saying before, like you had to cut all that stuff together like with a scalpel and shit, and if you fuck that up, you gotta go back and film it again, you know, for that take or whatever. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, despite its problems, I mean, what came out of it was a fun classic. I mean, people can say what they want, and the critics can say what they want. I don't really listen to the critics much.
Yeah.
You know, I don't agree with the 34% on Rotten Tomatoes and all the shit it got when it came out. But what came out of it, the finished product, was, to me, a great action / buddy cop film that should have been a bigger hit, made more money.
Yeah.
No fucking doubt.
Next question in this film, you have Jack Palance as a villain. Thoughts on him and the supporting cast?
Oh man, he's one of the reasons why I remember this. Of course, he's a classic sadistic villain. Of course, I like to mention first time I saw him was of course in Batman. Of course, he the guy who betrayed Jack Nicholson that made him become the Joker. Of course, the year before that, he was a villain in Young Guns, where he has that classic line, "Get ready for hell." And of course, after these movies, he gained success by playing Curly, the lone Western
Curly's gold
hero from Steve Flicker.
Yeah, that's a classic too.
You remember the scene? He won the Oscar. He did those push-ups with one hand.
Yeah. He did that at the awards too, didn't he? At the movie awards.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
That became the most infamous scene in Oscar history when he did that.
Yeah, that was crazy. And it was probably still in the 70s.
Yeah.
But that showed that was showed that before the Expendables, that showed that old school guys, no matter how old they are, they can still kick ass.
Yeah, he still is menacing in that movie. I thought he would have always made for a great Skeletor. You know, if it wasn't Frank Langella, he would have made a great Skeletor.
He should have got that role. He should have played that. He should have got that role. I could see that. He would have nailed Skeletor. I like Frank, whatever his name, but Jack Palance as Skeletor, it would have been more epic. Him and Dolph Lundgren going at it. Oh man, that would have been epic with me.
Yeah.
And 1989 was an epic year for Jack Palance. I mean, Batman. He got this film. You know, just a couple years later, he did City Slickers, and I know he did Cyborg too. And I don't want to talk about that.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Cyborg. Damn.
Or it's just the mouth.
Cyborg too.
The character's name, what's his name? Mercy. That movie, man, that sucks. But
yeah, that was horrible.
Jack Palance.
Angelina Jolie, and I don't want to even go through that either.
And that was her worst movie.
That and then Hackers, right? She was in Hackers too.
Yeah, I love Hackers. She definitely did a hell lot better job than that.
Yeah, she was great in Hackers.
But Jack Palance, man, he plays a great villain. You look at this and Young Guns, which came out a year before. Just a great actor and a class act, and it's unfortunate he's no longer with us.
Yeah.
And don't forget, he was the original host for Ripley's Believe It or Not. Before Dean Cain, this was before Dean Cain hosted. He was the original host for Ripley's Believe It or Not. And of course, he has that classic, that voice, you know.
Yeah.
Ripley's Believe It or Not. And of course, I love the scene where he in Tango and Cash, where he's looking at Tango and Cash fucking up his operations, and you can tell how sadistic he is. He takes these mice and puts them in a maze, and he wanted that to be the example of where he wants to take on Cash. He doesn't want to kill them. He wants to punish them for for fucking up. He doesn't want to kill them. He wants to torture them. He wants to punish them, man. That's what's so cool about Jack Palance in this movie as a villain. I mean, that's one of the reasons I remember this movie so much.
And
it's my favorite buddy movie.
You can buy Jack Palance nowadays. You don't have the type of villain
Exactly.
that you can buy.
Exactly, man. We need more villains like that to root for the heroes even more. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, as far as the supporting cast, I mean, yeah, Terry Hatcher, who was, like I said, she was hot. She was hot then. She's still hot. She does a great job here. Who else is in here? Robert Zadar.
Robert Zadar.
Julia.
Robert Zadar.
Who?
The jaw guy.
The guy with the chin.
Yeah.
The Maniac Cop, right?
Maniac Cop, yep.
Yeah.
Of course, that scene in Tango and Cash where he played the guy that Tango put away and said, "You remember me?" And of course you have that end joke with Stallone versus Schwarzenegger. Yeah, I love you. And caught me in the Barbarian, and Stallone grabbed him by and hit it in the bars and stuff.
You broke that jaw.
What's that line he said to Robert Zadar's character when he meets him in prison for the first time? He's like, "Your ass is mine," or something like that. Stallone's like, "Me and my ass would be over there."
Yeah.
So, it went like this. He hits him. He makes him hit the bar, and he says, "If you need me, my ass will be over there."
And the weapons guy is really good too. It's like you don't see him. I don't know if he's dead now or.
I love Owen. The guy that was like that guy. It kind of gave you that hit that it would have been a great TV show, Tango and Cash. He came up with the RV, all the gizmos. He was like Hugh for James Bond.
Yeah.
It's like. He was such a cool character, with the giant magnifying glass, and everything. Of course, the scene where he had that dog with the gun in it, and then did that thing on Facebook, he thumbs up at it.
Yeah.
But the character, as a matter of fact, I talked to Michael J. Pollard at a convention a couple of years ago.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah. Well, at the time, here's a guy that's already in his mid-70s, so he wasn't as talkative. He wouldn't talk to anybody unless you talked to him.
Yeah.
And we only spoke for a couple of minutes, and he had pictures laid out on his table from Scrooge. He played in Scrooge. He played the bum, and some.
He got frozen to death. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of his past films, and I didn't ask him about Tango and Cash or I Come in Peace because he was in that too. But he's such a nice guy, just so down to earth, and he looks a little bit older, but I'm glad he's still around. So, yeah. He did a great job here as a character.
I love his character now. That was such a great character for him because his characters were always just a little bit off the wall,
Yeah,
just a little bit to nod to the actual fourth wall, It's always a character, when he's in there, it's always the one that you feel the most comfortable with. He's very comfortable to watch on screen.
He was also in Next of Kin with Patrick Swayze. I forgot about that. He played the landlord.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he played the landlord, and he kind of played the same character in I Come in Peace with Dolph Lundgren a little bit. I mean, minus the weapons part, but.
Yeah, that was a great movie,
too. I remember he was in Roxanne with Steve Martin. He played one of Steve Martin's firemen, I remember.
Okay. Yeah, I still haven't seen that.